President, following your meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday, has your thinking changed at all as it relates to these negotiations with Iran?
No, we have to make a deal.
With Iran?
We have to make a deal, otherwise it's going to be very traumatic. Very traumatic. I don't want that to happen, but we have to make a deal. They should have made a deal the first time, and they got Midnight Hammer instead.
As U.S. President Donald Trump publicly escalated his hardline rhetoric by warning of a major military buildup against Iran, the quiet death of a young Marine at sea offered a starkly different narrative, highlighting the hidden human costs behind his expanding use of force and overseas operations. The USS Iwo Jima, once celebrated as the flagship that helped lead the high-profile raid to capture Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro, now sailed under a somber cloud as the ship tied to Operation Southern Spear's first American fatality, its decks marked by grief instead of triumph. A 21-year-old Marine, serving aboard the USS Iwo Jima during Caribbean patrols linked to anti-drug missions, went overboard into the open sea and, despite urgent rescue efforts, was later officially declared dead after never being recovered alive. He was the focus of an intense, around-the-clock, 3-day search and rescue operation that swept vast stretches of the Caribbean Sea with ships, boats, and aircraft before officials finally ended the mission and declared him dead. The Marine was identified as Lance Corporal Chukwuemeka E. Oforah, a rifleman from 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines, a Camp Lejeune-based infantry unit that had deployed with the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit aboard the Iwo Jima. According to the Marine Corps, his loss marked the first recorded U.S. service member death linked to Operation Southern Spear, the Trump administration's aggressive anti-drug and regional security campaign in the Caribbean and beyond. Military authorities have not released any explanation for how he went overboard, saying only that the circumstances are still under formal investigation and that no conclusions will be drawn until the review is complete. Colonel Tom Trimble, the commanding officer of the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, said the loss of Lance Corporal Oforah is deeply felt throughout the entire Navy Marine Corps team, stressing that his service, sacrifice, and memory will not be forgotten by those who served alongside him. Oforah enlisted in the Marine Corps in October 2023 and completed boot camp at Marine Corps Recruit Depot Parris Island in early 2024, beginning a promising career that took him through infantry training at Camp Lejeune and on to deployment far from home within just a couple of years. Colonel Tom Trimble, commander of the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, said, "We are all grieving alongside the Oforah family. The loss of Lance Corporal Oforah is deeply felt across the entire Navy Marine Corps team. He will be profoundly missed, and his dedicated service will not be forgotten." For 3 relentless days, a sprawling rescue mission swept the Caribbean, drawing in multiple large Navy ships, specialized aircraft, unmanned drones, and dedicated rescue crews that crisscrossed the sea in overlapping search patterns. The response force included Navy MH-60S and MH-60R helicopters, Marine Corps H-1Z Viper and UH-1Y Venom gunships, and a Navy P-8 Poseidon patrol jet, all flying repeated legs over the search box, scanning the waves for any trace of the missing Marine. 2 U.S. Air Force HC-130J Combat King II search and rescue aircraft and a high-endurance MQ-9 Reaper drone also joined the hunt, extending the search grid deep into the Caribbean with long-range sensors, extended loiter times, and crews trained for finding survivors at sea. Officials said the combined effort ran non-stop for roughly 72 hours before commanders made the painful decision to suspend operations and formally declare Lance Corporal Chukwuemeka Oforah dead at sea, ending a mission that had consumed hundreds of flight hours. On February 11th, the guided missile destroyer USS Truxtun struck the fast combat support ship USNS Supply during a complex underway refueling maneuver in the Caribbean, as the 2 vessels were sailing side by side to transfer fuel and supplies at sea. U.S. Southern Command said 2 sailors suffered minor injuries in the collision and were reported in stable condition, telling broadcasters that medical teams treated them quickly and that no life-threatening damage to crew or ships had occurred. After the impact, both the destroyer and the supply ship were able to regain control, assess damage, and then continue their planned movements away from the collision area, remaining fully afloat and capable of sailing under their own power while an investigation began. In a separate controversy, multiple defense outlets reported that the U.S. Air Force has been accepting newly built F-35 fighters configured without operational fire control radars installed, flying them instead with temporary ballast in the nose while awaiting upgraded sensors. Defense industry reporting, echoed by analysis sites, said deliveries of these radar-less F-35s to the Air Force began around June 2025, with subsequent production lots for the service allegedly affected by the interim configuration. According to detailed coverage from defense publications, the stopgap arrangement stems from delays and technical issues in bringing the next generation and APG-85 radar into full-rate production, pushing the planned upgrade schedule several lots later than originally intended. The U.S. Air Force, responding to the reports, has publicly denied that it is accepting frontline F-35 without radars, insisting that operational aircraft meet required configuration standards even as modernization work on new sensors continues. These mishaps and procurement disputes surfaced at the same time President Donald Trump was intensifying his pressure campaign on Iran, underscoring how accidents and capability gaps can emerge even as Washington projects strength abroad. The U.S. already has an aircraft carrier strike group, centered on the USS Abraham Lincoln with its escorts and air wing, deployed in the Middle East as part of a broader reinforcement posture around Iran and regional flashpoints. A second carrier group led by the USS Gerald R. Ford has now been ordered to leave the Caribbean and head toward the Gulf region, creating a powerful two-carrier presence that Trump has hinted could be used if diplomacy with Tehran fails. Alongside the carrier buildup, the U.S. has positioned advanced THAAD and Patriot missile defense batteries, as well as additional drones and other air assets, at key bases across the Middle East to bolster protection of forces and signal deterrence. Iranian officials have repeatedly warned that any U.S. or Israeli strike on their territory would be met with direct retaliation against American bases and assets in the Middle East, threatening a wider regional confrontation. Commentary carried by Iranian state-linked outlets has framed the dispatch of a second U.S. carrier as a definite step towards war, portraying the move as a clear escalation rather than routine force rotation. On February 6th, U.S. and Iranian negotiators met indirectly in Oman for a new round of talks on the nuclear file and regional tensions, but diplomats described the session as inconclusive, with no concrete breakthrough or agreement announced. Soon after those talks, Trump hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House and publicly reiterated that if diplomacy stalls, the U.S. is prepared to take more forceful measures against Iran, reinforcing Israel's hardline in front of the cameras.
President, following your meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday, has your thinking changed at all as it relates to these negotiations with Iran?
No, we have to make a deal.
Timeline with Iran?
We have to make a deal, otherwise it's going to be very traumatic. Very traumatic. I don't want that to happen, but we have to make a deal. They should have made a deal the first time, and they got midnight hammer instead. And this will be very traumatic for Iran if they don't make a deal. Look, if they don't make a deal, then it'll be a different story. But we had a very good meeting yesterday with Bibi Netanyahu, and he understands, but it's ultimately up to me. If the deal isn't a very fair deal and a very good deal with Iran, then it's going to be, I think, a very difficult time for them in the back. I guess over the next month, something like that. Yeah, shouldn't take, I mean, it should happen quickly. They should agree very quickly, yeah.
Mr. President, we might be heading into a partial government shutdown. When was the last time you spoke with Chuck Schumer, and do you still feel Democrats are negotiating in good faith?
Well, a week ago I spoke, but, you know, we have to protect our law enforcement. Actually, the Supreme Court gave a ruling, or one of the courts gave a very big ruling on masks, that you have the right to use them, you know, for personal protection if you want. So I don't know how that interjects. You know, they want our law enforcement to be totally vulnerable and put them in a lot of danger. They have some things that are really very hard to approve, frankly. As you know, it's only pretend. We had various of the other bills, that's all done, but we're left with this one. We have to protect our law enforcement, very important. Please.
Why does Prime Minister Netanyahu want you to stop negotiating with Iran?
He is, you're saying stop entertaining, stop talking to them? Didn't say that, we didn't discuss that. I'll talk to them as long as I like, and we'll see if we can get a deal with them, and if we can't, we'll have to go to phase two. Phase two will be very tough for them. I'm not looking for that.
Mr. President, there are currently 0 Israeli hostages left in Gaza because of you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And now that the war is ending in Gaza and Israel, I wanted to ask, do you believe Bibi bears any responsibility for the security failures that we saw on October 7th?
Well, October 7th was a rough time, and I guess everybody's responsible. It's yet to look. But It was a terrible attack. It was a sneak attack. It was as violent as unfortunately, I've seen some of the results at levels that probably even you, good reporter, but probably you haven't seen. It was a horrible thing that took place. People were surprised. It was a surprise attack. Nobody saw that coming. He didn't see it coming. Nobody else would have seen it coming if they were in his position, I don't believe. But I can tell you he's been a very good wartime prime minister. He's been very strong. We've worked with him very well. We had tremendous success with Iran and everything else we've done. And he really has been. He's been, extraordinary as far as a wartime prime minister. Not easy. And, you have a president that refuses to give him a pardon. I think that man should be ashamed of himself. A pardon over this trial that's going on. The president of Israel, the primary power he's got is the power to give pardons. And he's not, he said he's given it 5 different times, but he doesn't want to do it because I guess he loses his power. I think the people of Israel should really shame him. He's disgraceful for not giving it. He should give it. But Bibi's been a great wartime prime minister, and I've been the best friend to Israel I think that they've ever had. A lot of people say beyond presidents.